Our guest this half hour is Ken Cuccinelli, the former Virginia Attorney General, but right now he is a spokesperson for the Election Transparency Initiative. And good morning, sir. I hope you're doing well. Absolutely. Let's talk about what's going on under the Georgia Dome right now. As you call enforce the ban on the Zuckerbucks campaign financing scheme. Georgia House having hearings on this right now. Senator Max Burns and some of his Senate colleagues are trying to advance this legislation. Tell us what this is intended to do.
So the monies that Mark Zuckerberg, through a supposed nonprofit, which are supposed to be, in turn, nonpartisan, funded election offices all over the country and turned them into primarily Democrat Party voter turnout machines. This, again, supposedly this is charity money. And they skirted the law, so the Georgia General Assembly, like about half the states, banned these so-called Zuckerbucks 2 years ago after the 2020 election, and people figured out how inappropriately this money had been used. And now DeKalb County, working with folks who are doing the same thing under a different name, they were trying to skirt the Zuckerbucks ban by getting all the money to DeKalb County, and then DeKalb was going to in turn distribute it to other counties and cities. And the idea was that if it comes from another government entity, it's not private money, it's government money, so the Zuckerbucks ban doesn't apply. Well, they hid it for about 9 months, and upon its discovery, we called for investigations. We were the first to do that at Election Transparency Initiative. People can find us at electiontransparency.org with your Secretary of State, all the legislators, the Attorney General, and so forth. And our understanding through public statements of the Secretary of State is there is an investigation ongoing now, and the General Assembly there has, as you said, brought a bill through the Senate. It's now out of House committee, and it's headed to the House floor for sort of a Zuckerbucks 2.0 ban to deal with this intentional effort to circumvent the law regarding keeping elections fair. And to give people an analogy, these Zuckerbucks coming into election offices being used for voter turnout is like being allowed to pay the referee in a basketball game. It's March Madness, so let's go with March Madness. And your General Assembly properly banned that, and these folks quite intentionally are trying to work around it. It's really, it should be criminal, and if this bill passes, it will be.
But this is what I'm trying to wrap my head around. Why are election offices applying for a grant of any type? I'm not really understanding what they would need that for.
So the original reason in 2020 given for these was, all the burdens from COVID. And I will say that it's easy for people running an election office to view their office as underfunded. Everybody thinks they can use more money. Mm-hmm. And so that was the nice, sweet reason given, and money went to Republican offices just like it went to Democrat offices. But if you look at the amounts, the money sent to Republican offices was really just sent so they could say they sent money to Republican offices. And voter turnout efforts weren't really ginned up there using this money. Whereas in DeKalb County and Fulton County and other places like Philadelphia, now we can go around the country and describe where there is a very heavy Democrat preponderance of voters, then in those counties they were used intensely for voter turnout. And folks listening should understand voter turnout is the job of campaigns. To stay with our March Madness analogy, it's what the basketball teams do. They compete with one another. This is paying the ref to jump in and help one side. and they did that, and now they're trying to find a way around the ban on private money doing this. So it plays on the election officers who say, "Oh, gee, we need more money." Again, I've been in government; everybody thinks they need more money, and it turns it to a partisan end, and it turns your government into an advocate for one side in an election, and that's not supposed to happen. Your assembly made that clear 2 years ago, and these people very intentionally tried to circumvent that.
Help me understand how a department of a government or an office of the government, like the elections registration and office that runs the elections, when they apply for a grant, how is it that no one knows that they're doing this? I've been in local government myself, and somebody's going to know that one department is applying for a chunk of money for something.
They could get away with it. They're in a local government that is, leans Democrat, to say the least. So I think they just hope that folks would play along. And for 9 months, nobody figured it out. And a whole premise of this whole Zuckerbucks approach is that there aren't explicit bans on certain things. Now, of course, Georgia has one now, and they circumvented it with this effort. And I think that it was an experiment to see if they could actually circumvent the Zuckerbucks ban, because, again, this money was intended to go from DeKalb County to other counties so that the ban on private money wouldn't apply as those dollars went out to other governments. It would be a government-to-government transfer not covered by the Zuckerbucks ban. And I assume that most of that money would have gone, as it did in 2020, to Democrat areas. That was the point of it. The whole point of this was to achieve partisan outcomes. It wasn't just to sprinkle money around the country.
We've been talking with Ken Cuccinelli, former Virginia Attorney General, and also with the Election Transparency Initiative, the Zuckerbucks legislation. Now, if should this pass, what can happen? Can anything happen to the officials in DeKalb County that went behind the backs of the state law, or no? I mean, or does the current law take care of that?
This adds more restrictions, and it adds criminal penalties for the first time. For the General Assembly, needless to say, seems pretty upset that part of their own government, local government, intentionally broke the law. That's pretty clearly what happened here. And so they're putting penalties in place so the next time it happens, like you said, they might assume people won't catch them, but they got caught this time. And so they seem a lot more likely to think they might get caught next time. And if that's the case, there'll be actual personal consequences. One of the things about a law like the Zuckerbucks ban is it just gets put in place. So what happens if you violate it? I mean, people think, well, government doesn't violate the law. Government is the biggest lawbreaker of them all. Mm-hmm. And this is a case in point. And there were no consequences in place in the original law. So those consequences, in my experience in government, when people literally have skin in the game, when they might go to jail because of their inappropriate conduct as opposed to just getting caught and maybe shamed in some way, then that makes them think twice about doing it in the first place.
All right, Ken Cuccinelli, thank you so much for being with us. We'll keep an eye on Senate Bill 222 as it makes its way through the chamber right now.